Welcome to a positively brutal new episode of the Demonic Compendium, the show where I discuss the mythology, design, and game history of your favorite Megami Tensei demons. Today marks the release of Persona 3 Reload on the Switch 2, which could have had merit as a complete edition, but since it doesn't come with the DLC and is relegated to a game keycard, I figured since they couldn't be bothered to put the game on a cartridge, I can't be bothered to talk about a P3 demon that's even in Reload at all. So get ready to recover from that epic wound, because today, we're talking about Ares. Ares is best known as the god of war in Greek mythology. However, unlike the goddess of war, Athena, Ares is usually associated less with elements like strategy, victory, and camaraderie, but mostly just the insane acts of violence, bloodlust, and rage that goes into, war. Ares is usually depicted as brash, hot-headed, and foul-tempered, and despite being an Olympian, is actually one of the most disliked figures amongst the other gods. And when you've got somebody as awful as Zeus going, "Pfft, yeah, that guy sucks," you're probably doing something wrong. However, despite being angry and unlikable, Ares is also considered to be very, very hot, which is why he had a long, steamy affair with Hephaestus' wife, Aphrodite. Now, that's not to say that Ares has no redeeming qualities. He sometimes puts his physical violence to good use, to kill or attack people who assault women, and compared to a lot of other Olympians, actually seems to be a halfway decent father towards some of his many children. The Roman counterpart of Ares is Mars, yes, like the planet, and the two moons of that planet, Phobos and Deimos, roughly translate as panic and fear, and were named after the sons of the god of war. The Roman equivalent still focuses on battle, but doesn't quite have as nasty a reputation amongst the other deities as the Greek version seems to. Also, did you know that the name Mars is where we get words like the Mar in martial arts? So that's fun. Ares' compendium entry from Persona 3 Portable refers to him as the god of war in Greek myth. Other gods despised him for his cruel and violent nature, opposed Athena, who represented strategic warfare. Hey, real quick, if you like what I'm doing, please consider commenting, subscribing, maybe even checking out the Patreon. It all helps a lot. Thank you so much. Moving on. Design-wise, Ares, a buff Greek god of war, is depicted as a buff Greek soldier. Honestly, there really isn't much to say about this one. He doesn't seem to be based on any specific Ares, like the Marvel Comics version or anything. He's a pretty straightforward and standard figure. Kaneko did incorporate certain popular elements of the figure, like him wearing a crested helmet, which is a common symbol of Ares. He also wears golden armor, which he was described as wearing in works such as the Iliad, and he even has long braided hair, which was popular amongst Spartan men in ancient Greece, who are most famous for their culture of war and soldiers. Except Spartans tended to follow Athena's principle of war rather than Ares. He also has a Demi-Kids version where he has a bucket on his head, so that's fun. As far as game history goes, Ares has had a few unique roles here and there. What's kind of interesting is that for being one of the Olympians and this seemingly powerful god of war, Ares usually isn't all that strong of a demon, appearing on the lower end level-wise. I wasn't really sure where to start, so I'll kick off this section by saying that in the mobile title, Shin Megami Tensei Liberation D2, his compendium entry refers to Ares as Ares, like the zodiac ram constellation, which, by the way, I checked, and they have basically nothing to do with each other. In the Persona 2 duology, Ares appears as both a demon and a persona, while his Roman equivalent, Mars, appears just as a persona, and will have a chat with the demon version of Ares. And for supposedly bloodthirsty war gods, it's honestly quite a tame talk. They're just like, hey, you're the Greek me, and hey, you're the Roman me. Alright, well, here's some cards. See ya. Ares has a somewhat substantial role in Persona 3, where he's required to cast the fusion spell Scarlet Havoc. Elizabeth even specifically mentions him by name in her request for you to cast the spell, saying that it requires Ares and a Teutonic Dragon Slayer. And that works out great, because Teutonic is my word on my Word of the Day calendar. Scarlet Havoc deals heavy slash damage to all foes with buzzsaws to the point where Elizabeth says the spell slices the enemy into a million tiny slivers, leaving them as nothing but dust, before commenting at the dust by Makoto's feet. Of course, Ares was removed from Persona 3 Reload, so his role in the Scarlet Havoc fusion spell was replaced with Mithras, because why should Atlas do work and make an updated model of an old PS2 demon when they can just shove in one they made for Persona 5 almost 10 years ago? On that subject, Ares was also in Persona 4, so as of the making of this video, only time will tell if he'll be cut from that remake as well, or if he'll appear in Persona 4 Revival. Hey, Demonic Compendium binge watchers of the future, why not let me know in the comments how that all turned out? I always thought it was kind of funny that in The Answer, Aigis could go from having Athena as her persona to being able to use Ares, and I am a bit sad that's no longer the case in Episode Aigis. Of course, it's even funnier to me that Aigis could actually use both Athena and Ares at the same time in the Persona Q games thanks to the sub-persona system. And hey, you know who else could use Ares in Persona Q too? The Persona 5 characters Ryuji, Makoto, and Yusuke. Why them specifically? No reason other than you can now buy figgies of them, fantastic magnetic collectibles of your favorite franchises. You can buy these 3 to get 5% off and use my link in the description or coupon code STRAIN to get an additional 5% off all orders of $50 or more, and I thank you in advance. Okay, back to the video. Ares has a role in the Shin Megami Tensei 4 challenge quest, The Cursed Gauntlet. Basically, the monastery has a gauntlet with an Ares living inside of it, but it refuses to leave until someone can best it in combat. And that someone is Flynn. So yeah, fight him and come on, he's level 12. Seriously, nobody else was strong enough to beat this guy? Ares concedes defeat and looks forward to meeting Flynn again one day as allies, which works because completing this request unlocks Ares for fusion. In Demikid's Dark version, players can buy Ares from the casino, and he's honestly just a really good demon to have around. See, he was in my party even in the super hard post-game dungeon, so I guess that's worth mentioning. And lastly, Ares has a few non-appearances, where he's just sort of there in spirit. Can I count Fire Emblem heroes? Technically, you can have Tokyo Mirage Sessions characters fight alongside a character named Ares, but as far as I know, this isn't supposed to be literally Ares. There's also the original Megami Tensei, where Akemi can trade an amethyst to Rag for an Ares necklace, or in the Devil Survivor games, where there's a spell called Ares Aid that boosts critical hit rates. Also, apparently the Japanese name for that skill is Ikusagami no Kago, which roughly translates to God of War's Basket, and I can think of no better way to end this episode than by imagining this dude frolicking through a flowery field with a basket. And there you have it, Ares, the brutish and burly bearded barbarian of the battlefield, brandishing beefy biceps. Did I leave out something you thought was important? Was I just plain wrong about something? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to let me know who you'd like to see me talk about in future episodes. That's going to do it for this episode of the Demonic Compendium, and I will see you next time. But be careful while you rest that a demon doesn't take over your body.